You're going to need a couple of blocks. You're going to probably need a towel. Towels are always good to have, and possibly you're going to need a strap. But those are optional. And we are right there. So if you come to your mat, we're going to start in a standing position, remarkably. And if you did my Ashtanga class on Sunday morning, I have about 5 minutes that I want to go through on foot exercises so that it will help your ankles work better so that it reduces the likelihood of tripping. So at the start of every class or whenever you're going to go out for a walk, it would be really good to warm up your foot muscles and just get a nice stance in Tadasana with your feet about hip width apart, and then start by lifting your feet up, the balls of your feet, so that you're just flopping them up and down. And do that about 10 times. You can be next to a wall and hold on, because this does get to be a challenge. And if it's easier for you, just flip up one foot and then the other. But do that about 10 times, and you can feel what's going on in the top of your foot. Then turn your toes out as far as you can. And again, lift your toes up, the ball of your foot up, and let them just flop back down. And you can hear them flop. And you can feel where this is stretching those muscles in your outside of your ankles. But again, about 10 times. And then come back to center and then bring your toes together, or get really pigeon-toed. So here you're adducting your legs, turning them in toward each other. And again, lift and set them down. This looks silly, but you can really feel it. And what this does, it keeps those muscles flexible so that when you're walking, your feet will flip back up and you won't stub your toe and take a tumble. Okay, come back into Tadasana, and this time just come up onto your tiptoes and sink back down. This is quite a bit easier because you're used to doing this. But again, you're strengthening your ankles. Do this 10 times. And when you're done, take your feet out, abduct your legs here, and then lift up and down. And don't do this super fast. You want to build a little bit of muscle here. And then when you get to 10, turn your feet in again. And then up on your toes and down. Okay, and when you're done, just pause there. One last thing, and I'm not going to walk you through both of these, but just lift up your toes, come onto your heels, and then walk for about half a minute. I'm just going to go to the end of my mat, turn around and come back. And if you do it on your mat, it's really not hard on your heels. on your tile floor, it'll be really challenging. But anyway, you can feel what that does to the muscles right alongside your shins. And then you'd also do the same thing coming up on your tiptoes and take just little baby steps. But even just walking around your mat, you'll feel a little bit better. And now for the first pose, you're in the perfect position for this. It's going to be yoga squat. So grab your blocks, and I like to use 2 blocks, the 6-inch high, and then coming forward, get your toes at about 10 and 2, so that your knees are pointed in the same direction that your feet are. Get your heels roughly in line with the front of your block. Bring your palms together. And if you can just squat down all the way down, that's great. If you can't, go down onto your knees and get there any way you can. But have faith that nobody has stolen your block. And once you're down, try to bring your elbows between your knees. And then lift your spine, straightening out your spine, the crown of your head up. So you'll have to tuck your chin in a little bit. And then also try to drop your shoulder blades down your back, down towards your hips. You can allow your eyes to close. Take a deep cleansing breath in through your nose and let it out through your nose. Take another deep cleansing breath in through your nose, out through your nose. Let your breath come to its own natural rhythm, in and out through your nose. And notice your foot position. If you're getting a real strain in your ankles, maybe just move them a little bit. Your elbows between your knees are pushing out. That's opening up your groins. Your hips are being opened. And all the while, your breath remains your focus. Notice where you're breathing into. Are you breathing into the bottoms of your lungs, into your chest cavity, where your ribs are, or maybe just really shallow breaths? That really doesn't matter. But just follow your breath. Because when you're following your breath, your mind is occupied on your body, and it won't race away to other things and take the attention off of your body. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, open your eyes. The next pose is going to be dragonfly. So if you'd like to remain on your blocks, your high blocks this way, you may. If you want to remove the blocks altogether, that's fine. But walk your legs out wide into a straddle with your heels down. Your toes should be pointed up towards the ceiling. Inhale your spine tall. on an exhale, slowly walk your hands forward. You may find that having this extra elevation is better for you. You might find that it isn't quite as good for you. And if you want to make a change, go right ahead. This pose, the targets are your hamstrings and your spine, and the muscles alongside your spine. And if your hamstrings are really tight, you can always bend your knees. Or if you want to put the most amount of sensation into your spine, bend your knees. You can always use a block underneath your ankles. Yesterday, I found that putting another block up underneath the upper thigh makes this pose extra meaningful for me. Just allowed me to come forward a little bit more. You can also try to moon the person behind you. That will tilt your pelvis forward, and that actually lengthens your hamstrings because your hamstrings are attached to the back of your pelvis, and as you tilt your pelvis forward, your hamstring connection moves farther away from your feet, lengthening it. Likewise, your sacrum tilts forward and gives you a little bit more space to come forward in this forward fold. And then soften into the pose. Let gravity take over. You can bend your elbows. That will automatically lower your shoulder blades into a more natural position. You don't want to have your shoulders up next to your ears. And maybe you can catch your muscles in the act of softening. And once you catch one, maybe there's another right next to it that begins to release. Allow your spine to round. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, walk your hands back. Remove all the blocks that you have. Set them aside. Bend your knees. Bring your hands behind your hips. And then slowly windshield wiper your knees from left to right. And feel those muscles that have been stretched. As this counter pose brings more fluid to your joints, and more blood to the muscles. And the next time you come to center pause, sit up straight. And I don't do this very often, but we're going to do another dragonfly. So start by bringing your legs out wide, and then bend your left knee, bringing the sole of your left foot into your right thigh. Inhale your spine tall. Bring your right hand behind your back. Lift your chest, and then on an exhale, turn to the right. Maybe you can get your shoulders or your chest parallel to the long side of your mat. Maybe not. But you're kind of overstretching here just to get the muscles, your obliques, working so that they can relax a little bit. And then turn back towards your right foot. From here, again, sitting up straight, and exhale, begin to walk your hands on either side of your right leg, coming down, drawing your collarbones towards your right foot, your right toes. And once you have some resistance there, allow your spine to round. This is going to be a two-part pose. This is more of a flexion of your right leg, working on your hip flexors. If you are grabbing onto your toes and pulling, give that up. Just let gravity do the work, because when you're pulling, all your muscles get engaged. When your muscles are engaged, the tension from the pose cannot be transferred into your fascia, that connective tissue that restrains your motion. Listen carefully. On your next inhale, rise all the way up into seated, again facing your right foot. And from here, twist 90 degrees to face your left knee. From here, you're going to do a side bend towards your right leg. So open up your right hand, place it on the inside of your right leg, wherever it might be touching. And then on an exhale, begin to side bend, taking that right hand down towards that right foot. Now, if your left shoulder wants to come in, fight that. Maybe you can take that left hand on top of your left shoulder. Maybe you want to take that arm up overhead. I find that gives me too much compression in my right side, so I don't like to do that. Or you can take that left hand, bend the elbow behind your back. Now here you're feeling a lot of tension in your right hip flexor. You're also feeling it in your side body. Maybe you can feel your intercostal muscles, those muscles that tie each individual rib together. Maybe you're feeling that begin to stretch. But sink into this pose. Focus on your breath. If you're having difficulty with your breathing, try to lengthen out the exhales. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, rise back up to a seated position. Help your right foot come back onto the mat. Bring your left to meet the right. Your hands behind your hips again. And again, reach over your knees from one side to the other. And notice the difference. One side should be feeling this relief quite a bit more than the other. And the next time you come to center, pause, sit up again. The next pose is Priscilla's favorite pose. It's going to be half saddle. So for half saddle, start with your legs out in front, and then just come over onto your left hip. I like to use a rolled up towel underneath my right butt cheek. Bend that right knee, and then bring that right ankle back. You can be actually sitting on top of your knee if you wish. You can be slightly off. Your heel can be just off to the right of your hip. And you might be feeling this immediately in your hip socket, but you're probably also feeling this a lot right in your quads. This is a great quad stretch. And from here, maybe you want to walk your hands back and feel the difference in your hip flexors now, because you've reduced the amount of flexion in those muscles. You've also tilted back your sacrum. Now, if this feels great to you, stay right here. If you want to go back farther, you may end up having more pressure on your quads, but it might feel extra good. You can come back onto your elbows, or maybe even all the way down onto your back. It just depends on how you feel. There are other options here that can intensify or moderate this pose. And frankly, I'm not sure how your body's going to respond to this, but maybe bend that left knee and bring that left sole to the mat. Maybe that will feel good, give you a little bit of relief. Maybe you want to walk that out to the left. Today, that is not working for me, so I'm not going to do it. I've done a couple of walk runs the last couple of days, so my hips are extra tight and they're objecting. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, begin to come back up into that seated position. Roll onto that left hip. Remove the block or towel, whatever you have. And from here, you can bring that right foot forward, or you can bend the left knee. But I'd like you to come into table pose, facing the front of the mat. There are too many options, and your body's going to tell you the right one for you. So from here, do some cat-cows. Every inhale, your belly drops, your chest comes forward, your sit bones lift and separate. And then on an exhale, round your spine, tuck your chin, tuck your tailbone. And the next pose is a present to Priscilla because after her least liked pose is one of her favorite poses. We're going to do shoelace on the right side. So walk your knees over to the left side of the mat. Lift your left foot up and back. Stretch that hamstring, pushing the sole of your foot onto the back wall. And then bring your left knee down on the mat behind your right. Move your left foot off to the right of the mat and your right off to the left, like you don't know what you're doing. Then walk your hands back. If you need a block or 2 blocks or 3 blocks, make sure you have them. And then locate those right underneath your sit bones. It's important to get your weight equalized on your sit bones. And you'll have almost a minute here just to let your body settle in. You can always take a deep cleansing breath, which will relax your muscles, relax your nervous system, and even reduce your blood pressure, which does in fact help your blood move a little bit easier through your arteries. Begin to deepen your breath. From here, take your left hand out towards the right front corner of your mat, palm up. You're going to go into doing eagle arms. So from here, take your right elbow underneath the left, and then raise your arms, raise your hands, and then maybe you can bring your palms together. Or maybe the backs of your hand touch the back of your wrist, opposite wrist. That's fine. One side is probably going to be significantly different than the other, and that's completely normal. With eagle arms here, try to drop your shoulder blades down. The higher your shoulder blades are, the more your rotator cuff interferes, because more connective tissues want to get through your shoulder socket. One way to do that is to lift your elbows up a little bit, push your elbows forward, and then lower your shoulder blades down. Might feel like it's going a long, long way, but it may only be a 1/4 inch in your back, but that makes a huge difference. And then on your next exhale, release. Bring your arms out and wide. Lift your chest high. Stretch those hands far wide. Stretch your chest. And then bring your palms together out in front of you. Interlace your fingers. And then supinate your palms, pushing your palms forward. And then inhale, bring your hands up towards the ceiling, your palms closest to the ceiling. And then bring your all the way up so your arms are next to your ears. And then relax your arms out and down. The next arm portion is going to be Gomukhasana arms. So take your right arm up in the air, right next to your ear, get a straight spine, and then pat yourself on the back. The palm should be on your back. Take your left hand out, thumb down, bend that elbow. Bring that hand behind your back and walk your hand up your back. And maybe you can make a bind here. If you can't, that's fine. You might want to use a block, a strap or a towel or even your t-shirt. But try to keep your spine straight. If you curl your spine, if you round your spine, you're actually making this a much more difficult pose because you're increasing the distance between your hands. And then on your next exhale, release your hands. Bring your arms out again. Really, this time, just push the eye of your elbow away. Stretch out your fingers and then bend your elbows. Bring your into robot arms. Grab hold of a pair of baby birds and then just rock those birds. And this will bring more synovial fluid into your shoulder sockets. Okay, and then next time you come to center, pause there. And the next pose that you're going to be getting into is caterpillar. So that's a nice counter pose for your legs right away, which is what I have planned. To get out of this, though, you can do it any way that is best for you. You can come forward onto your knees, or maybe you can just reach back and bring your feet forward. When you get your legs out straight, bring your hands behind your back, and maybe you want to just lift your hips up into reverse plank. Maybe you want to wave your feet one direction or the other. Your hamstrings are probably screaming at me right now, but that's okay. And now to get into caterpillar, you can be on a block. Let gravity help you a little bit more. Inhale your spine tall. And then on an exhale, walk your palms forward on either side of your hips and on your legs. Again, reaching your collarbones towards your feet. The object is not to get your head onto your legs, but to get the crown of your head to the far wall. You're stretching your spine, creating more space in between each vertebra, more space for the discs. And then just release. Maybe you can soften your heels. Soften your feet just in front of your heels or above your heels. Maybe you can soften your glutes. In your core. And feel your body rounding. You can be feeling this in your hamstrings or your spine or both. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, walk your hands back towards your hips. If you're on a block, carefully get off of the block. This time, with your hands behind your hips, bring the soles of your feet down onto the mat. Tuck your tailbone under, and on an inhale, lift your hips up into reverse table. This used to be a pose I hated, but now I find so much relief in it. Drag your heels towards your hands and your knees towards the front of the room. That lifts your pelvis up just a little bit more. And then on an exhale, lower back down. Come on to one hip or the other. Take your feet around to the back of the mat. And all the way down onto your belly. Towards the front of the mat. Bring your elbows up underneath your shoulders. Your palms are flat. You're in Sphinx here. From here, stretch your feet out long. Put your toenails down. Now your feet don't have to be right close together. But from here, lift your chest high so that your shoulder blades actually roll down your back. Feel that. And from there, push your toenails down. That will lift your knees. And isometrically drag your elbows towards your hips. This is the yawn version of Sphinx. And notice all the muscles that are being engaged, all the way from your calves to your chest, to your abdomen, and your triceps. And now slowly lower your knees, soften your calves, your thighs, your glutes, your belly, soften your triceps. That will again allow your shoulder blades to come down even farther. Allow your head to just bow forward. And maybe move it a little bit from left to right to make sure that there's no residual tension. And then on an exhale, release. Fold your arms using your forearms as a pillow. Bring one knee up towards an elbow. And feel what that little tiny twist to your spine does. Your lumbar spine has more room available to twist than any other part of your spine. And just by this small motion of tilting your hips really gives a lot of relaxation to that spine. Then on your next inhale, return that leg back to meet the other. Come back up onto your elbows. This time, change the position of your feet. If they were wide before, make them a little bit narrower. If they were narrow, make them wider. Inhale again, lift your chest high, the front of your chest. Your gaze should be down in front of your fingers. Push your toenails down, imprinting your pedicure onto your mat. Lifting up your knees, and then begin to soften again. And feel the softness roll through your muscles. Breathe into any area that is not cooperating. When it's appropriate for you to just bow your head, go ahead. And feel how different your body feels here compared to the first pose. Maybe this is your more the thoracic spine. Maybe it's even lower in your lumbar spine. Doesn't matter. Both are good. And on your next exhale, release. Fold your arms again. Move your head the opposite direction. Bend the other knee, bringing it up towards that elbow. Begin to deepen your breath. From here, straighten out that left leg. Bring both hands next to your chest. Push the floor away, coming up into table. And do a couple of cat-cows here. And linger here in cat with a rounded spine. Maybe you want to move your hips from side to side like a sexy cat. And then walk your hands over towards the right side of the mat. And your feet and your knees, I'm sorry. Do a couple of cat-cows here. And lift up your right foot, pressing it back towards the back wall. Feeling that hamstring stretch. And then bring that right knee behind the left, bringing it down onto the mat. And walk your hands back, coming into shoelace on this side. Inhale your spine tall. Make any adjustments that you need. Making sure your sit bones are on the blocks. And when you're ready, take your right hand, palm up towards the left side, left front corner of your mat. Take your left elbow underneath the right. And try to bring your hands together. And again, you may find that you can just touch the back of your wrist with the back of your hand. That's fine. Maybe you can go further. Every day is different. Maybe you can get your palms together. And again, try dropping your shoulder blades. And you can do that by lifting your elbows up pushing them out, and then lowering your shoulder blades. And then let gravity take over. And on your next exhale, release. Bring your arms out to the side. Stretch, lifting your chest high. Spread your fingers wide. And then bring your palms together way out in front of you. And this time, interlace your fingers the wrong way, the opposite way that you did before. So it just feels funny. Supinate your palms. Push them forward. And then inhale, lift your palms up towards the ceiling, opening up your shoulders. And then on an exhale, release. Bring your arms back down by their side. From here, lift your left hand up towards the ceiling. Really stretch it high. Bend that elbow, pat yourself on the back. Maybe try walking that hand down your back a little bit. Take your right hand out to the side, thumb down. Bend that elbow. And try walking the back of your right hand up towards your left. Maybe you can make a bind, maybe not. This is opening up your shoulders significantly. Your left shoulder, you are really lifting high, opening up the armpit. Your right shoulder, you're rotating it inward and back. On your next exhale, release. Again, stretch your arms out. Bend your elbows into robot arms. Grab those baby birds. And just rock your forearms front to back. And when you're ready, you can stop. From here, the next pose is going to be saddle. So the way to get there, probably the easiest, would be, if you can, roll over your knees, coming into table. And from here, you can do some circles with your hips. You can curl your toes under, lift your hips up and back into downward facing dog, which each of you knows is the perfect pose in the world for me. And then, when you're ready, bring your knees down. Bring your legs out to the front. This is going to be saddle on the left. So roll onto your right hip this time, bend that left knee. Now that left foot can be toenails down, can be toenails out. You can be sitting on top of your heel. All of those are acceptable. You're trying to get into your quads. Try to get your pelvis, your sit bones equalized so that they're level. Your front leg can be out straight, if that makes sense to you. And then you can bring your hands behind your hips and just lift your chest up towards the ceiling. You may want to push that right heel away. You may feel this in your left hip flexor. And if you'd like to intensify this, you can always come down onto your elbows or all the way down onto your back. You can do a double saddle if you wish. You have all those other options with the bent leg. The other side didn't work for me before, but on this side it's fine. The great thing about yoga is that you learn your body is different every day. So you accept your body for what it is today. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, come back up into the seated position. Roll onto that right hip to free up that left leg. Bring it out in front. Bring your hands behind your hips. Bring your footprints to the mat. And windshield wiper your knees again. Maybe your left leg feels different this time. And the next time you come to center, pause. From here, sit back up. This is going to be half dragonfly again. So bring your feet out wide to begin, making sure that this is not the maximum that you can possibly do, but just something comfortable. And then bend that right knee, bringing the right foot into your inner thigh. Adjust your foot so that the toes are pointed up. Inhale your spine tall, bring your left hand behind your back, and then twist to the left. Now you can use your hand on that right leg to get a little bit more leverage, to get your shoulders at right angles to your pelvis. And then release, come back and look at your foot. Inhale your spine tall, and then exhale, walk your hands on either side of that left leg out towards your foot. Until you get that resistance from your body. Notice where your right knee went. Did it go down? It probably did because your pelvis is tilting, which is what it's supposed to do, to give you more freedom. Try to keep that right hand in line with your left so that you don't make this into a twist. On your next exhale, release, come back up. From here, turn towards your right knee. Your right hand can be off to your right a little bit. And this is going to be the left side bend. So bring your left hand, back of your left hand on the inside of your left leg. Inhale your spine tall. And then on an exhale, fold left with the side bend. And again, if your right arm feels good and comfortable and remains by your ear, you may be able to reach all the way over and touch your foot. That is more than a dream for me. You can always bring that right arm behind your back to make sure that that shoulder doesn't sneak forward. You should be feeling this in your left hip flexors, your left hamstring, and also on your right side body, where you're getting extra space between your ribs. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, rise back up. Turn towards the front of your mat. Help your feet come back to the center of your mat. Hands behind your hips. One last windshield wiper. See if you can get your knees all the way to the floor without difficulty. And if there's stiffness, that's fine. You're working on it. The next time you come to center, pause. Come down onto your elbows. And then all the way down onto your back. Reach your arms up towards the ceiling. And then lower them onto the mat beyond your head. And stretch from your heels to your palms. From your toenails to your fingernails. And again, if you'd like, if your body needs something different, now is the time to do it. And then carefully return your arms back down by your sides. Carefully walk your feet out towards the corners of the mat. Coming into Shavasana should be pretty natural to you by now. If you want to bring your shoulder blades underneath your chest, do that. Your palms should be facing up towards the ceiling and supported by the floor. Take a deep cleansing breath in through your nose and exhale it out through your nose. Take another deep cleansing breath in through your nose, out through your nose, and take rest. And during this Shavasana, notice how your mind returns to your body. It may be through doing a scan, or it may be through just relaxation. As you begin to deepen your breath, notice what parts of your lungs you inflate. Bring your awareness back into your space. Bring movement to your fingers and to your toes. To your wrists and to your ankles. Gently roll your head from left to right. And when you're ready, walk your footprints back towards your sit bones. Draw your knees into your chest. Push your sit bones away as you push the small of your back into the mat. And rock from left to right, all the way from hip and shoulder on one side to the other. Feeling that massage. Then coming all the way over onto your right side. Use a pillow, use your arm as a pillow. And just pause there for a few moments. And notice how your body feels right now. And then using the strength in your left hand, push the floor away and rise up to a seated position. Thank you for sharing your practice with me today. I am humbled by each of you and your dedication to your health and fitness through the practice of yoga. Each day you practice with compassion and empathy, and the world needs much more of that. Take that with you wherever you go and share it with your family, your friends, and everyone you meet. Namaste.
Namaste.
My name is Clint, and this has been Yin Yoga.